conference.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Alan O'Neill, and I'm the Communications Manager at CSCS. Sitting alongside me is Gordon Jenkins, our Operations Director.
Morning everyone.
Between myself and Gordon, we're going to take you through the slides about CSCS. So I will kick off with the overview of CSCS. Gordon will take you through recent developments and future plans, and then I'll close things off with a quick roundup of Smart Card and the technology that we have contained within the CSCS cards. Okay, so...
Can I just ask a question, because the video screen's disappeared. Are we meant to be able to see you guys?
I assume you should be able to see us.
I could a few minutes ago, but not now.
NFB guys, is there any technical solution?
Not that I'm aware, Alan. Usually we only see the slides. We don't usually see the presenters.
Oh, okay.
As long as you see the slide.
Okay.
It's just your desk. It's your desktop that we're sharing, so it's just the presentation that we can see.
Okay.
Okay. As long as everybody can see the slides, I think that's the main thing. So I'm just going to really kick off with a couple of little headlines about what CSCS is about, how you get a CSCS card, and really what are the main aims of the scheme. So just to kick things off about what is CSCS. CSCS was set up in 1995 by the construction industry for the construction industry. So our owners, our board, are made up of representatives of employer organisations, trade federations, and some of the main unions. So we truly are an organisation set up by industry for industry. Our principal objective is to provide industry with a means to certify that individuals working on construction sites have the required training and qualifications for the job that they do. So by ensuring construction workers have the correct training and qualifications, we can play our part in improving standards and safety on UK construction sites. The scheme is widely used on the majority of construction sites. There are over 1.9 million CSCS card holders, which include 10 other schemes affiliated to CSCS. And those schemes include plant, electrical, scaffolding and demolition. So how do you get a CSCS card? Successful applicants are issued with a card that confirms the holder's identification, qualifications and training. The card also shows the holder has met the necessary health and safety requirements for their occupation. So there are 13 different types of card, covering over 400 occupations, construction-related occupations. What card you can apply for depends on the occupation you do and the qualifications that you hold. So the cards are available in 8 colours, and they range from an apprenticeship and a trainee card, which are red in colour. We go skilled workers cards, which are blue, and supervisors and manager cards, which are black. And there are other cards in between those as well, of different colours. So I think what's important to note that not everybody can get a CSCS card. The key messages and the key objectives of CSCS over the last few years are to ensure that there are 2 key criteria that must be met in order for you to be successful in obtaining a CSCS card. And those 2 key criteria are, number 1, have you obtained or are you registered to obtain a recognised construction-related qualification for the job that you do? That is the first. And the second one, within the last 2 years, have you passed the appropriate CITB Health, Safety and Environment test for your occupation? So if you answer no to either of those questions, CSCS will not be able to issue a CSCS card. So it's qualifications and it's the health and safety test are the 2 main criteria for receiving a CSCS card. If I just flick through to the scheme aims. Does anybody any questions on that introduction before I delve a bit deeper into the aims of the scheme? No. Okay. So, scheme aims. CSCS has got 3 main aims, and they're highlighted on this slide. So I'll just take you through each one. So the first aim is to encourage the development of a trained and a qualified UK workforce. So what we mean by this really is that our long-term goal here is to arrive at a day when everybody working on UK construction sites hold the correct qualifications for the job that they're doing. So we appreciate we aren't there yet. There's a lot of work to be done, but the slides that Gordon's going to take you through will show how we're working to achieving that goal. The second key aim for CSCS is to ensure that all site workers hold the right CSCS card for the work they undertake. So this is critical to the success of the scheme. It's the right card, right qualifications, right job. As explained earlier, there are 13 cards, 8 colours, over 400 occupations. This can be confusing to new people applying for a CSCS card. And historically, we know that we have issued incorrect cards over the last several years. So there is a lot of work taking place to tighten up in those rules and to ensure that when those people come to renew their cards, that they get issued the appropriate card for their occupation. But again, Gordon, when he goes through his slides, he will take you through the changes to the scheme that we have introduced to help us achieve this goal of ensuring that all site workers hold the right CSCS card. And the final key aim for CSCS is to ensure that principal contractors carry out more rigorous on-site checks using smart technology. And this is absolutely critical to the scheme. So it's our firm belief that it's vital thorough card checks are carried out on-site before allowing a worker on-site, and for employers to insist that workers have the correct qualifications for the work that they do. So on this particular issue, making sure that cards get checked effectively on-site, we've recently carried out a survey across the whole industry. Over 1,200 people responded to it, and the results of that survey were quite telling. 14% of construction sites confirmed they never check CSCS cards. So people are just walking onto site without their identification being checked, without their qualifications being checked. Also, the survey revealed that 70% of all card checks are purely visual. So you walk on site, you present your card. The vast majority of construction sites, that site supervisor or site manager is simply quickly looking at your card, a quick glance. He's checking out the colour, he's maybe checking your photograph, and he's letting you on site. What he's not doing is thoroughly checking the qualifications and the training that's on the back of the card. So we are absolutely passionate about getting out round the industry and encouraging site supervisors and site managers to check the cards properly to ensure it is who it says it is on the card, the photograph fits, the occupation fits, the qualifications and the training fit before allowing somebody on site. So on that note, one of the things that we have been doing is promoting smart card technology. So more and more people are realising that the technology embedded into a CSCS card is a simple and cost-effective way of checking identification, of checking training, of checking qualifications. So later on in the webinar, I'll take you through a couple of slides on the smart technology that is embedded in the CSCS cards. But in the meantime now, I'm going to hand you over to Gordon, and Gordon will take you through recent developments to the scheme and future plans for the scheme. So actually, sorry, I tell a lie. I have one more slide. Apologies about that. I'd just like to take you through what CSCS is, just as a final recap. There are a lot of myths out there about what CSCS is, and we spend a lot of our time talking to industry, sort of like trying to set the scene and explain what the scheme is about. You'll see that there's 4 bullet points on this slide, and the first 4 we've got an X beside them. These are obviously the 4 things that we most commonly hear CSCS is about. So first things first, a health and safety card. CSCS is not a health and safety card. There are a lot of construction companies, there are a lot of site managers, site supervisors who feel a CSCS card is a health and safety card. Yes, there is a health and safety element to obtaining your CSCS card, but the primary aim of the CSCS card is to verify your training and your qualifications. So, we spend a lot of our time explaining to construction companies it's not a health and safety card. A passport to gain entry to site. Again, we talk to numerous people within the industry, and we are very aware that there are site supervisors, site managers out there who, if somebody flashes a CSCS card at them, they just assume they have a right to be on site. And again, that is not the case. It goes back to what I was talking about earlier. We are encouraging the site supervisors and the site managers to check that card properly, look at the ID, look at the training, look at the qualifications. And the third bullet point there is competence card. There is a lot of discussion within the industry about the word competence and its definition. We're very clear within CSCS that our card is not about guaranteeing somebody's competence. If a guy walks up on site and flashes his card and it gets checked properly, he may have all the skills in the world, he may be the most qualified guy on that site, but if he turns up drunk, he's no longer competent to do his job. If he turns up with a bad attitude, something's happened to him on the way to work that makes him not think straight, that makes him a bit a health and safety risk to other people on site, he's then not competent to do his job. The card will never tell you about somebody's state of mind. The card is there purely for identification, training and qualifications. We feel competence is something that site supervisors and site managers should be monitoring all the time throughout the day, checking if somebody is competent to do their job. So that's our view on competence. We are not a competence card. It's up to site supervisors and managers to manage that on a daily basis. Also, the last one that we're not is a card for off-site employees. We spend a lot of time talking to industry. We talk to a lot of people who have got CSCS cards that we feel really shouldn't have the card. For example, we meet people who work for construction companies, head office, doing administrative duties, who never set foot on site. So that scenario, that employee does not need a CSCS card. However, their company insists that everybody who works for the company should have a card. So that's something that we're trying to tackle. That's something that we're talking to industry about. Unless you visit site to do a construction job, you do not need a CSCS card. We meet chief executives who run construction companies who have got CSCS cards. And they only visit site as a visitor. They're not there to physically build anything. They're not there to physically work on the construction site. Yet they insist that themselves and all of their employees have a CSCS card. That's something we're trying to tackle. Only those people who are actively working on the construction site in a skilled occupation should have a CSCS card. The only other cards are for trainees and for visitors who should be managed by the site supervisors and managers when they arrive on site. So they're the four key myth busters, really. They're the four things that we hear more than anything else about people's perception of what a CSCS card is. So those four are definitely not what we're about. The bottom two is exactly what we're about. It's proof of identity. You rock up on site, you flash your card, your photograph's on there, your name's on there, your occupation's on there, and your qualifications. So those bottom two bullet points, it's proof of identity, certification and qualifications. If I just flick to the next slide, carded, qualified. That's what CSCS is moving towards. We want the industry to have confidence in the CSCS card. We want industry site supervisors and managers to check the card thoroughly, and we want industry to be reassured that when a guy turns up on site, he flashes his card, it gets checked properly by the site supervisor, and he's not allowed on site until a decision is made, has he got the right qualifications for the job that he's been employed to do. Okay, so that's really the end of my introduction. I'm going to hand you over to Gordon, who will kick off taking you through recent developments and future plans. But just before we do, any questions on the first few slides? Okay, great. I'll hand you over to Gordon.
Okay, thanks very much, Alan. Good morning, everyone. As Alan said, my name is Gordon Jenkins. and I'm the Director of Operations at CSCS. So I'm going to run you through the next few slides with regards to some of the scheme changes that we're implementing, some that have happened and some that are coming up over the next few months and years with regards to improving the scheme. Just to set a bit of context, Alan sort of did a very thorough introduction there, but there has been a lot of research done about cards, routes to competence in the construction sector, and you can see on the screens there some joint funded research, slightly dated now, but I think still the recommendations remain true. I think called the Route to Competence in the Construction Sector 2011 report. And that report really did, as the title suggests, it did go into a lot of detail around card schemes, not just on CSCS, but on the wider construction industry itself. Quite a comprehensive report. And we've sort of summarised it there in one slide, as obviously pulled out the things that are particularly of interest to CSCS itself. And I think the first and prime recommendation from that piece of work was around that all workers on construction sites should be formally qualified to an appropriate level. It also, and I think it's fair to say, levelled some criticism at CSCS with particular reference to our construction site operative card, sometimes known as the green card. And the report quoted that it found there was quite widespread misuse of the green card, and it was felt that this misuse diluted CSCS's effectiveness and did lead to some confusion. And Alan did go into a lot of detail with regards to what CSCS is and what CSCS isn't. So if we move on to the changes that have actually happened so far, based on that report, we had quite extensive consultation, and in fact I went round to quite a few regional NFB events to obviously signpost these changes and to get feedback to engage with a wider range of stakeholders. The first one that happened fairly quickly after the report was published was the decision by CSCS to actually recognise a wider range of academic qualifications. And just to clarify what's actually meant by academic qualifications, these are construction-related degrees, both graduate and postgraduate degrees, HNDs, High Nationals, and HNCs, and also a range of NEBOSH and CIOB qualifications. So we now recognise those. We split them into 7 categories, dependent on the occupation or the subject matter that's been undertaken by the applicant, and there's a full list on our website. We recognise about 1,500 different academic qualifications, and as time progressed, we've run this for nearly 2 years now. That list has obviously increased to reflect the wide range of qualifications that we get. So that happened back in September 2013. Secondly, quite a big change, and I think it's arguably the biggest change happened to the scheme since its inception, was the replacement of this construction site operative card, sometimes colloquially known as the green card, with the labourer card. And we're going to zoom in a moment and actually focus on that in a little bit of detail with regards to what that change actually did. So if we move on, you can see the AQP just to capture that on there, the qualifications that we recognise. And now if we go into the green card changes in actual detail. So what does the change actually meant, and what is the sort of impact on there? So from July 2014, applicants who wish to apply for a green card now have to demonstrate, as well as doing the health, safety and environment tests that Alan mentioned, also have to demonstrate that they have achieved a knowledge-based qualification called health and safety in a construction environment, or a recognised equivalent such as Site Safety Plus or IOSH Working Safely. I do emphasise that or equivalent. We do have a process for recognising equivalent training courses that have actually been undertaken. We have a map in a process. The two predominant ones that are listed on there, the Site Safety Plus, one-day health and safety awareness course, or the IOSH Working Safely are perhaps two of the larger qualifications or training courses that we recognise in lieu of the award. We have about 8 or 9 others that we recognise, smaller ones, but those are by far the largest. And what I would say to you today, if you do have a course that you run within your company or within a group of companies that is equivalent to that, we do have a process where we can map existing training qualifications to the standard that's been recently introduced. So if this isn't designed to penalise those that regularly do training at this basic, at this entry level, merely we want to reflect that they've got the recognised on there. And if you are interested in that, there's a lot of information on our website with regards to those particular changes. The other point, just to point out, I don't know how this is coming across on your screens at home, as it were, but you can see that we have also clarified who the green card is actually aimed at. Calling it construction site operative was perhaps sometimes a little bit of a vague title. People didn't actually understand who that card was actually aimed at. And you can see on your screens that we now clearly identify it, that it's for those, for labourers, those working at that basic level, to show that they have completed, met the standard, the health and safety in a construction environment or equivalent, as well as passing the health, safety and environment touchscreen test, as it's sometimes known. So if we move on to the next slide. So that's really the changes that have occurred. Before I dive into plan changes that are coming up, is there any questions, or does anyone on the call want to clarify any of the areas that I've just touched on with regards to the green card changes and the AQP?
Could I just seek some clarification?
Yeah, of course you can.
My name's Stephen Reason, Siemens Building. Despite your earlier colleagues saying that the card is not a health and safety card, everything that you've just said about the green card hinges solely around health and safety, nothing about practical construction experience.
It's a very good point, well made. As it is for that that introductory level there with regards to labourers, the focus was initially felt around health and safety for that introductory, that green card as a sort of entry card, or those operating at a basic skill. It was something that we have started to look at focusing on a wider range. Now, the challenge, of course, is you have several different types of sites that, of course, are operated at that basic level: civil engineering sites, home building, more commercial sites, FM sites, etc. And working with the standard setting bodies to look at developing qualifications specific to that. We tend to get into the more occupational areas when you enter at NVQ level 2 and above. So that entry card, yes, has been that initial focus on health and safety, probably quite rightly for people coming in at that particular entry level initially, but obviously as people progress through and onto a particular trade, then that's obviously where the trade-specific qualifications come in. Of course, there are some other cards available for the basic skills cards, which do focus on the trades. So you can do a level 1 in bricklaying, carpentry, painting and decorating. But we find they are perhaps more focused at that sort of level on general health and safety areas. Right. Okay?
Yep.
Make sense?
Yeah, it's sort of.
Well, as much as it can on these sorts of things, I suppose. But as I say, any other questions around those? Nope. Okay, I shall move on to the plan changes. I do emphasise on this next slide, it is very much something we are in the planning stage. We are doing consultation with a wide range of stakeholders with regards to clarifying the schemes and actually doing some sort of general tidying up with regards to that. So, as I say, it is very much at a consultative stage, and you know, appreciate feedback from yourselves and wider colleagues with regards to these proposed changes that we are coming on. The first one is around the profiled route. For those of you that perhaps haven't got a clue what that is a route that CSCS developed about 5 years ago to allow or aid the issue of a supervisory or management card for construction site supervisor or manager. and it is very much based on a recommendation and an applicant evidence sheet where people provide evidence of how they have complied with the standards with regards to supervisory and management processes. It is quite a cumbersome route for both applicants going through it and also for CSCS to administer. And actually, it doesn't really fit in with regards to the strategy of getting a recognised qualification. We have seen numbers decrease of the profiled route over the last few years, so we are looking at actually removing that route and working with awarding organisations to develop a qualification that is more suited to those people already undertaking, and actually looking at broadening and recognising a wider range of construction qualifications through things such as the AQP route, the one I've just mentioned on academic qualifications. So that's really the profiled route. We are also, perhaps the larger bit of work for us here at CSCS HQ is around the construction-related occupations. These are quite a wide and diverse range of categories that we have on the scheme. We have over 350 of them, and these tend to be skills, occupations, categories, call them what you will, where there is not, or there, when they were initially introduced, not a nationally recognised qualification in place for the actual occupation that we are referring to. We have done a lot of research on these and found that as time has moved on, a lot of these occupations are now covered by a qualification. And so much so, we can actually reduce that list from 350 to 12. So as you need to be sort of a maths genius to work out, that's quite a reduction in number on there. So over the course of the next probably 12 to 18 months, we will be looking at reducing these occupations quite significantly, and actually redirecting people to the more appropriate qualification that they actually should be actually doing appropriate to the work that they're actually undertaking. And a lot of information on this will be coming through as we're working on that, with regards to signposting people to the appropriate qualifications. So it's a real work that we're doing on it. Some of you may not use CROs that often, but it is something that we are finding a lot of increase since the changes to the green card. We're coming on to that. Lastly, on this slide, we are currently reviewing the site visitor card with regards to its appropriateness within the actual scheme itself. And would be, I don't know if any of you on the call have any particular views. Do you use the site visitor card? Do any of you use the site visitor card at all? Do you find use for it, or any particular strong views either way? No? Okay. Well, as I say, it's something that we are reviewing as to whether issuing with just a site visitor card, yourself, you all run sites, etc. You're more than capable of controlling your own visitors. So you can probably guess what my personal view on the suitability of the visitor card is. But of course, we have to take consultation, quite rightly, as a scheme owned by the industry, from yourselves and users of this, as to its appropriateness. So it's something we are looking at reviewing now. Okay, so that's really the plan changes. Before I hand back over to Alan, I'm conscious we did quite a whistle-stop tour through those. Is there any bits that you want me to clarify, or any bits that you want me to focus on a bit more detail, or any queries or questions about what I covered in those sort of 5 key areas? Okay, no, I shall take silence as either you've lost the will to live, or it's all been very clear and understandable. So, okay, so I'll hand over to Alan, who will wow you with smart cards.
Okay, thanks very much, Gordon. Yes, I've just got a couple of slides here, folks, just to take you through CSCS smart cards and the technology we have in the cards. The smart card, really, it's a microchip that is embedded within the CSCS card, and very much like your bank card. And all 1.4 million of the CSCS cards contain one of those securely encrypted microchips that can be checked electronically. So the information printed on the card is stored on the chip. So it stores photograph, name, qualifications, additional training. All of that can be accessed via the chip electronically. So before, when I kicked off, I was talking about how checks on construction sites are a bit sporadic. 14% of sites never check a card. 70% of sites only carry out a visual check. One of the main reasons for bringing in the smart card is to help industry carry out those checks in an efficient efficient way. So the chip has got everything that's printed onto the card, and when you walk up onto site to present your card, the site supervisor, site manager has a few ways in which they can read that card very, very quickly. So how the card works is quite simply, you can read it in one of three ways. So if you walk onto site, if there's a laptop, if there's a PC, when the software, the free software is downloaded onto that laptop or PC and a very inexpensive card reader is purchased, as you walk on site, you present the card, you simply insert the card into the card reader and the details appear instantly on the monitor on the screen. So as a site supervisor, a site manager, you can look at straight away, check the ID, check the qualification, check the training, is this guy fit to work on site? Similarly, in the last couple of years, we've introduced some apps that work on smartphones and on tablet devices. So again, the apps are free, the apps can be downloaded, and again, if you're a site supervisor, site manager, a guy walks on site, he presents his card, you simply hold the card up against the mobile phone or up against the tablet device, and again, the details instantly appear on the screen. So again, site supervisor, site manager can very quickly make a decision about, am I allowing this guy on site to do this particular job based on the qualifications that he's got. So another great advantage of the smart card is the chip links with databases. So the site, the construction company has its own database. All the details can be uploaded straight into that database, either instantly or at the end of the day when the site supervisor, site managers get back to the office. So historically what happens on site is a lot of this is recorded manually on paper. If any recording is done at all, it's recorded manually on paper, and that introduces a lot of extra work for site supervisors, site managers. There's a lot of paper records to be recorded. There's a lot of paper records to be manually inputted into the site's database. The smart card does all that instantly for you. The details on the card are stored, the guy access to the site is stored, and it can be uploaded onto the database. So my final slide really is just to go back over, you know, the benefits that the smart card can bring and how it can cut costs and improve productivity. So as I just mentioned, it saves the site supervisor time spent manually checking the card. You simply read the card and the details are there, and it can be stored onto a database. The second one is a very key issue, and it's something that's come up a lot in the media recently, is fake cards. There's been some high-profile court cases in the last few months whereby organised gangs have been arrested, have been taken to court and have been sent to jail for producing fake identification cards, which include construction industry certification cards such as CSCS cards. The advantage of the smart chip, again, going back to our survey, 70% of sites say they only visually check the card. We have seen these fake cards. The National Crime Agency, we've worked with the National Crime Agency and CITB to tackle the fraudsters. We have seen these fake cards, and they're good. They're very, very high standard fakes. If you're a site supervisor and you look at that card, just purely visually, you will not know it's a fake. It's of that high a quality. However, if you place the card in the card reader or place it on your mobile phone or your tablet to read it, it will instantly alert you to the fact that it may be a fake, because no details are going to appear on the screen, and it's going to get your radar up. You're going to go, hang on a minute, there's something wrong with this card. So then you can take whatever steps you take on site to find out who the owner of the card is and make a decision. You know, is the chip just faulty, or is it has this guy purchased a fake card? So that's a big advantage, and industry is asking for that as well. You know, we talk to a lot of people in the industry who are saying fake cards is becoming an issue. The third bullet point there is to reduce the number of different cards needed to access sites. So you have many guys out there, or many construction industry employees, who have more than one occupation. They are carpenters as well as bricklayers. So historically, what that means for CSCS is that individual needs 2 cards to be able to access site depending on which job they're doing. So that's unnecessary expense for that individual or for that employer to get a guy 2 cards. So the smart card, you can store all of that onto the chip. You can store the fact that they are a carpenter. You can store the fact that they are a bricklayer as well. So only 1 card is needed. So there's some benefits there for employers and employees. And the last bullet point is, you know, there are all sorts of additional uses that you can use the card for. You can store a lot of additional information. Many sites require their employees to carry out additional training that specifically relates to that site, that you need to be inducted before you're allowed on the site, that you need to attend toolbox talks on a regular basis to be ensured that you're still allowed on site. So all of that can be stored on the card. So again, put yourself in the position of a site supervisor. You're inducting 20 people at one time. Historically, you've been filling in lots of paper, you've been logging that onto a database, all very time consuming for the site supervisor to get all that data onto the site's database. Using the smart card technology, all that's done instantly. You brief, you induct the 20 people on site, and then you take their cards, you hold them up against your mobile phone, you hold them up against your tablet, and all the details are recorded that they have taken part in the induction or the toolbox talk. So that really is just the highlights for the benefits of smart technology. To say all 1.4 million CSCS cards have that technology embedded in them, and it's something that we're going to continue encouraging the industry to get on board with, and that's something that we'll be doing over the coming months, over the coming years, and hopefully industry will start to adopt it just as second nature. I think now it's fair to say that probably the last survey we did, less than 10% of sites are regularly using smart technology. So obviously we want to up that, but it's good to see that people are using it and people are talking about the benefits it brings. So that's something we're going to continue to promote and progress as the weeks, months and years roll by. So that is the end of the CSCS presentation. Has anybody any questions?
If nobody else has got a question, could I just ask your very last point there? You said that you can write the information to the smart card showing that they've had inductions and that. If it's as easy as that, what stops a fraudster from writing information to a chip card just as they do when they skim a credit card?
Yeah, I can pick that up. There is obviously security protocols that need to be established, obviously once you have been set up with the smart card access. So obviously once the necessary encryption has been set up with you, you're given an administrator's login to log into the database. So there is security protocols as part of the process. Once the device has been enabled, then obviously the information can then be uploaded. So as part of the work that we would do with you or with your IT provider is open source, there can be obviously the necessary encryption embedded in the actual chip itself. What we have done, however, is made sure that we have worked closely with other sectors that use smart technology. So, for example, the rail sector, who use a very successful smart card called Sentinel, to ensure that we're on a similar sort of technology platform. To ensure that there is sort of consistency in that sort of element on there. But of course, because you are dealing with data, there is obviously the necessary security protocols that need to be complied with.
And will this be free of use if a company is using all their site agents to update cards, or will there be a license system?
There's not a license that we charge with regards to using the smart card as the as the sort of means for the administration of, obviously there'll be some costs for, which would be between you and your IT provider with regards to access to databases, etc. from your end. But actually using the smart card as the vehicle for storage, there is not a per card license fee on that at all.
Okay, Tom.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for joining the webinar this morning. We will send out the slides to yourselves. So if anything else does come to you and you need any further clarification, then just please contact me and we can put you in contact with the guys. Thank you.
That's great.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Leaving the conference.
Alan O'Neill.
Leaving the conference.
Rebecca Jones.
Leaving the conference.
John Short.
Leaving the conference.
National Federation of Builders.